I would recommend Lifework leadership to other employers, because it builds character. It builds character. It builds a Christian outlook for what that individual is doing. It encourages ethical behavior. All the things that an employer would want, it reinforces it and builds it in that individual. So I certainly can recommend Lifework leadership.
I really believe Lifework leadership is a tremendous leadership opportunity. And I think it's one of the tools in the toolbox in terms of helping leaders develop the skills that they need to lead people in this day and age. It really provides a foundation for that. The other thing I really notice when people come back from Lifework leadership, they have really taken time to find out who they are as a person versus what they do at work. And I really believe if you can connect what you do with the work that you feel God has called you to do, plus your passion for that, then that is just the recipe for joy and happiness in what you do, and joy and happiness in the people that you serve. So I see that when people come back, they've had that opportunity for that reflection and that insight, and I think that really carries down to the people that they serve. So I've seen that as a real opportunity. The other thing I've seen is I've really seen that those folks have reached out and began to collaborate with people outside of our organization, which is always a good thing, to have a different perspective outside of healthcare, but still a perspective on leadership. And there's a connection, an instant connection there. And I think that that has been so beneficial for our organization. So I think from the leadership standpoint, it really provides a very good foundation for leadership. And I think that the folks that have gone through our leadership program, I think almost all of them are still here, they're more effective in their leadership role because we've given them the opportunity to really explore the spiritual side of how do you lead in our case, a secular workplace and still be a Christian. And that's a question that we face, all of us in our workplaces, unless you really work in a Christian environment. And I think that we need the tools, we need skills, we need to understand how we can lead in that kind of workplace and how God would want us to lead in that kind of workplace. So I think that's the other thing that's very valuable. I think people know how to walk their faith as a leader, which is sometimes hard to do.
Because leadership makes a difference. We've had people at CNL go through this program, and it's made a big difference in terms of their contribution, not only to CNL, but also to the community. Christianity is multi-generational, and so we need to be training generations in the future, and that makes a difference in a community. In a sense, we're all cathedral builders. Cathedrals were not built in a day, a week, a month, or a year, or even a century. They were built over several centuries, but the people who built the cathedrals knew that what they were doing was going to leave something of value for future generations. And so I would say it's about leadership, and that the reason I would recommend it to somebody else is that we need to be training leaders in our community who can make a difference, who care about the common good, and who understand how to operate in the public square in a way that allows us to thrive and have a common sense of what things should be done.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons to support people in our organization going to Lifework leadership. One is that most leadership, most programs of this sort focus on relationships at a fairly shallow level, that is really acquaintances, so networking, which I don't think is very deep necessarily, and on technique, which is usually ungrounded. So, what are the tricks of being a leader, and what kind of network can we build for you to be a more effective leader? And that's okay as far as it goes, but I don't think it creates the kind of opportunity for deep impact that we seek. By contrast, Lifework leadership engages people in the conversations we all now call courageous conversations. That is, the conversations of the heart that get past the surface, and where you can build not just connections to other people, but a kind of solidarity of cause. And I think, movement towards solidarity with other human beings is one of the basic movements of the Spirit. This is where the work gets done. Now, this is a secular organization, and I've always worked in secular organizations. It's where I belong, even as a person of faith. I know that about myself. So why would you send someone from a secular organization who may or may not share the creed to a leadership program that has a point of view. It happens to be Christian, and my response to that would be, they all have a point of view. They all start from some basic anthropology. What does it mean to be human? And if that's not a statement of faith, I don't know what is. It just happens that this one is explicit in its point of view. And you don't have to share it, but you have to be willing to entertain it. And if you're just at that point, no one's going to try to convert you. But you have to be able to entertain the possibility that the universe is deeply personal with a capital P. And that if that's true, then persons matter in a way that no other outlook on life would claim. And if you can just entertain that hypothesis, then you can go places in the conversation with other leaders in life work that aren't likely to be explored in any other leadership program. Issues like, how does forgiveness work at work? What is my family's claim on me as a leader of integrity? How do I weigh tough choices in the workplace when there's no right decision? And where do I go for strength to make the best decision I can? Those kinds of issues. And those are different conversations than, how do we whip a team into a frenzy or get more attention from my organization, whatever other leadership programs might teach.